What is one experience you think every single human should have? Living in absolute poverty. Too many people sit back and think them living from paycheck to paycheck in suburbia is the same, but it's not. I'm talking about living in the inner city where these people would check to make sure the doors are locked on their car the moment they hit a red light. I'm talking about food/meals coming from food pantries and alike services, versus someone cosplaying poverty with actual money to afford things. I feel that if more people got to see this firsthand, they would understand the plight of many Americans. It's simple for people who were born and raised in middle class to think the people living in poverty are just doing things incorrectly, and that's the cause for the struggle. They don't realize the uphill battle it is to escape it. LSD. I think every human should try acid or mushrooms, preferably LSD-IMO, at least once. The thing that is my favorite aspect of the drug is the connectedness. You're violently reminded that there's more than this physical world and body. I tried acid when I was a cigarette smoker, but I hate smoking cigarettes while on acid. It reminds me of my physical body, which takes me out of the experience. When feel my throat or lungs burn, you yourself are more than that. You feel how you are no different than the other things in the universe. Neil deGrasse Tyson says we are star stuff all the time. You feel like star stuff on LSD. You're made of the same things and energy. I'm reminded of the quote from Fight Club: how much can you really know about yourself if you've never been in a fight? How much can you really know yourself if you haven't been absolutely out of your regular rational mind? So much of our human experience is boxing things up into categories to make life more palatable and easier to understand, but it doesn't work. Because the world is too complex, so we simplify it. LSD does the opposite almost. It shows how it's okay if things don't make sense to you because you can't possibly have the correct perspective to understand everything wholly. I go into every trip saying to myself I'm going to be out of my mind. I'm mentally preparing for nothing to make sense. And what I always find is a deeper understanding of who I am in the midst of that. Living even just a few months with money in the bank and not having to worry overly much about bills or if you'll have food this week. I had this when I was laid off during COVID, and they added a bit to unemployment that meant I was making better money fired than I was while working. Which some people may say it meant they added too much, but in reality it just means we're allowed to be paid poverty wages, and the bare minimum they thought we needed to survive during COVID is apparently not the bare minimum they think we should be able to work and earn. And to add to this, maybe the people born into wealth could use a few months working one of those minimum wage jobs, dealing with rude customers and not making enough money to survive unless they take a second and third one to scrape by. As a gay man, I'm gonna say questioning your sexuality. I just posted a super long answer that includes this in it, but I think it deserves a comment of its own. Seriously, I know so many guys that have simply never questioned their sexuality at all. As far as they're concerned, they're straight simply because that's the way they are, and they've never once considered otherwise. The idea that they could be anything else is entirely alien to them, and they often feel that they would just know if they weren't straight. Conversely, I know an equally large number of guys that have questioned and have come to their own conclusions, but I don't know a single guy that's ever questioned and regretted it. You can question however feels right to you. If you don't want anyone to know, literally no one has to. You can do the whole thing solo if you prefer. The internet exists. There's plenty to research. It just requires being open-minded and honest with yourself. Figuring out if you like/don't like certain things, and how certain things make you feel. It requires a level of letting your guard down that I think some guys really struggle with. Lock yourself in a room and trawl Wikipedia or whatever else for a few months / years if you have to. Just do whatever you need to assess your own personal needs and desires. Stop worrying about what others might think and start focusing on what you think. I'm super late to the post-OP, but I have one answer that changed me. I'm not sure how you arrange it, but I grew up broke. In early elementary school, my parents separated and my brother and I lived with just our mom. We rented a duplex, Mom worked P/T at KFC, and we were on WIC food stamps. We got the government cheese block and free lunch programs at school. I remember a few years back when a politician running for president of the country was touring a regular home and they were just obviously taken aback by how and where a family in the US actually lives. Our politicians can be so far removed from us real people, it's just sad. Experiencing food insecurity and the social ramifications of being broke or poor will really teach you what it is to have empathy. To walk in someone else's shoes. It should be mandatory for the betterment of our society. Realizing in hindsight that those popcorn for dinner movie nights were out of necessity and not just for fun will change you. I always remember that Twilight Zone where the racist white man becomes a Jew during Holocaust and has to experience racism in the first person.